kindly that we write a Your Turn in the Independent, but Ralph Rutten has yet to get back in touch with us. So far, and this is atypical from what we hear, the 1,400 people went over there from 43 countries. They were well covered everywhere, whether people where they came from agreed with them or not, or whether the media did or not. But Colorado Springs has yet to allow that to happen. So Active for Justice, I hope, is going to have an article in their next paper. Good old Steve Saint is once again a saint. Human rights, one of the reactions, one of the intellectual and responsible reactions to a conflict like this, which is not new. We're not reinventing the wheel here, and it's not essentially been created by Palestinians or Jews or Israelis or Arabs. It's gone on in the history of the world. And we've evolved into a people and to a rule of law in the world and the establishment of the United Nations that we have standards and we have tests and we have ways of analyzing who's doing wrong at a particular time and who is in the right. And it may be at one time Arabs, and it may be at other times Jews, and many of us here have gone through Jewish discrimination and African American discrimination and anti-war people being discriminated against. It's not the category of the person that you are, it's the issues that are in violation of human rights. So after the invasion, re-invasion, and recontrol of Gaza, the Goldstone UN report came out and started off by saying every nation has a right to self-defense, and Israel has a right to self-defense, and every nation that is militarily occupied has a right to resist. We know that from World War II. The report concluded, however, that there was intentional civilian populations attacked, the UN, the American Friends Service Committee, other such places in Gaza, and that there were potential war crimes committed under the Nuremberg Charter. This should be referred to the United Nations, that at one time, remember, had a mandate in Palestine, and when the British walked out and left things in disarray. Well, that came before the U.S. Congress. And the U.S. Congress overwhelmingly, with their lobbyist influence, which is even going to be stronger with the latest Supreme Court decision, decided to condemn that report. The only nation other than Israel in the world that has condemned it, except, of course, Dennis Kucinich, voted not to condemn it. And Ron Paul, the libertarian, his friend, voted not to condemn it. The frustration is such over there now that political one-state or two-state solutions that have been worked on for years is very frustrating to people who see the solution really to be one of the rule of law and a jurisprudence solution, or a third state intervention of the UN in order to resolve this issue. And it may come to that. It may, unfortunately, in a group like this, which are based on nonviolence, it may be a step not to violence, but a step to UN peacekeepers and court international law decisions. The Premier of Israel said just last week that Israel will stay in the West Bank for eternity. There is no provision in international law that any nation has the right to unilaterally decide that they're going to stay anywhere for an eternity. And so that frustrates the situation even more. When we were over there, we met with the UN OCHA group, the UN UNRWA group, and other such groups in order to get the lay of the land, and particularly Al-Haq. Al-Haq is the West Bank affiliate of the International Commission of Jurists in Geneva, and they expressed an interest in more contacts in the United States with international law-oriented organizations we also have heard from the AFSC and Fellowship of Reconciliation, Seville of North America, Denver, I guess it's the Denver chapter. Yeah. And we've also met a international lawyer associated presently at the International Court of Justice at The Hague, who is a war crimes prosecutor. And this, I guess, motivated us to redirect a small organization that many of you have not heard about, but has been from time to time affiliated with the Peace Commission, Justice and Peace Commission, called the Center on Law and Human Rights, which several of us started here in 2003 to work on immigration, and Peter and Mary may remember that, and Steve Handon's daughter was instrumental in causing that to take place for people in Colorado Springs who did not have adequate services to protect them, if at all we could, from being deported and from immigration discrimination. And the center has also worked on the soldier rights cases that you're familiar with that were written up in Steve's newspaper, which I was one of the attorneys on, for the rights of soldiers that refused deployment because their conscience would not allow them to fight in Iraq, and then civil disobedience cases from time to time. Now, we're motivated to redirect that center and reorganize it to be an affiliate and connected with Al-Haq in Ramallah, and to do advocacy, education, and humanitarian aid. This generator, two of the most important things in an occupied country is a generator and a water tank. And when we've been over there, we stayed overnight with Palestinians where the water tanks were shot out. They didn't shoot the people, they shot that night the water tanks. You don't have water, you don't exist. You don't have a generator, you don't exist. And a generator, by the way, is on the list of prohibited items to be to go into Gaza, because any item that could as well be used for a military purpose, you may remember in Iraq with the sanctions there, lead pencils were on the list, so that children in Iraq could not get lead pencils. Generators were on that list. We have $500 left over for this generator, and all we need to do is get 800 more, get that 1,300 together, and the center is going to work on that kind of humanitarian aid, on education, such as we're doing tonight, on revision of the book I wrote, that is probably the only book that integrates theology, history, international law, and peacemaking. Revise that book, and then the advocacy work that we may be able to do with Al-Haq and other organizations. So that's another thing that can be done as individual citizens to try to stand up for what is presently a very serious situation involving world peace.